Alright guys, welcome back to episode 2 from the city of Circreos. First of all, I've got to apologise for the lack of episodes lately. That pesky little thing known as real life kind of got in the way a bit and has prevented recording. But a few other issues. I have to admit that I have been struggling a little bit with how to move forward with this place and what to do first. Because I took such a long break from this after the end of the season, I kind of lost my flow a little bit with where I was going and what I was doing. But I've got an idea now. I've got a plan of sorts. Hopefully we can stick to it. We probably won't. But we do have a plan for today. And the plan for today is basically to make a start on getting this side of the city built up to the same kind of level as this side of the city. So we've got a bunch of buildings to finish off. We've got to sort out what we're doing over on this little raised area over here. A lot of stuff, basically. We're not obviously going to get it all done today. We'll probably get a reasonable chunk done today, I think, because what I would like to do first of all is to build up these kind of little housing buildings, little incidental buildings that don't really have a purpose. One thing I don't think I pointed out in the little walkthrough before is that the buildings are built in kind of specific ways, I suppose you could say. Like the simpler, just like simple housing buildings are built relatively simply. They have all have the same block palette, and then the buildings which have some kind of function all contain the nether brick in some form. So this here is going to be kind of a paper mill. We're going to be moving the sugarcane farm from up in the tower up there over to underneath here. And then this is going to become a little bit of a paper mill. Then we've got the kind of the church / religious building over here, which again uses the nether brick. Over there you've got the apothecary brewing station kind of place, which again uses the nether brick. So all the buildings which have a purpose all use the nether brick. All the little incidental or kind of the housing buildings which don't have a specific purpose do not have that. What we're going to try and do today is get all the ones that, all the housing and incidental type buildings built up to the same kind of standard as the rest of these buildings that we have already started. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to approach it the same way that I would approach any building, really. It's kind of like a painting. You'll build up a kind of a blocky outline first, just so you've got all the shapes right and the composition and everything like that right. And then from there you will add layers of detail and then another layer of detail until you've got it to the stage you want it to be. So with these, what we're going to do first is we're going to build up the shells. So we're going to build up obviously the pillars with the acacia. That we're going to use cobblestone for all of the walls to begin with, just so we can get that shape right. Then we'll probably do that with the first floor, and then the second floor we've got to decide where we want things to go. So we need to go around again and add the second floors onto the buildings where we need them to go and where they're going to look interesting. Then we're going to need to figure out, we're going to have to think about as we do that where the staircases are going to be. Obviously some of them I've marked out already, others I haven't. And then once we've done that, we'll go round them all again. We'll do a second pass and we'll add a little bit of texturing in, like we've got here. We'll add the doors, we'll add the windows. And then we'll go through after that with a third pass where we'll add the foliage and the little bits of grass and ferns and the leaves. And we'll add that on the third pass. That will add the kind of like the final level of details to the buildings themselves. Eventually we will go around the whole side of the city and we'll add more little custom trees in and things like that. But that's something to do at a later date, I think. For now though, we need to get these built up, and we need to get the basic shells of these places built up. So what better way to do that than my first ever third-person time-lapse, which hopefully will be starting right about now. Alright, we are back. We have some shells in place, and as is always the case when building like this, I ran into a few issues that we are going to need to fix. The first one is these roofs across here. This is too much of a straight line for me. I like there to be a little bit more height variation in there. So what we're going to do, I think, is we're going to raise this building's roof up by one more block. That should add just a little bit of a step up and a step down again to break that straight line up a little bit. There is a little bit of a line across here still, but we can fix that by adding a few little kind of bushes and things on top of here. Maybe a few other little bits and pieces that can help break that up. There are a few other issues with the actual structure of these buildings. This bit, I'm not happy with this. This we're going to need to fix up. And for that, I am thinking if we just get rid of that, and then we put in some stairs across there, that gives it a little bit of an archway feel. I'm still not entirely sold on that. I may play around with that a little bit more, but that's the general idea. Another one of the issues, these two walls are way too flat. We need a little bit more depth in here. The other issue with these is this is sticking out. I'm not sure what I was doing when I put this here, but it doesn't really work. So we're going to get rid of that, and we're going to move that into the corner here. So it'll be more kind of in line with the rest of the building, so we can have this little kind of overhang around the entire edge of it. Get rid of that as well, put a little bit of that down there, and then we can knock this wall in by a block to here, like that. Grab stairs again, and just something like that just adds a little bit more depth, breaks up the kind of the monotony of it. We're going to need to change this out for a little bit of black concrete powder. And then around here is okay. This is a little bit weird, this bit is. There's not a great deal I can do with this bit. So I may just have to leave that. If I bring this out with the slabs, it's going to look a little bit odd. If I push that in again, this wall's going to look a bit odd. This wall I would actually like to push in by a block. We can. I will break that up a little bit. Similar to how we have on the side over there. And then we grab the stairs, like so. And that breaks that up a little bit. I can kind of live with that, I think. Possibly. I may need to have a think about that a little bit more. But over here we had some fairly major issues on this building over here. The first one was that this used to be two pillars here and here, but they didn't line up with anything on the other side, so it made it difficult to put in a wall up at the top. So I've had to shift that around a little bit. The other one was, again, I put one of the support pillars in the wrong place, and that's sticking out here, which makes this look a little bit odd. So that's another one we are going to need to move into here. This means that we can get the slabs to line up a little bit better with how we have them in the other buildings. So the other buildings on the first floors, they are always in line with the pillars rather than sticking out at all, which means we can do that. And we'll be able to, we have got a lot of little bits like this where I would like it to be the jungle planks rather than these cobblestone. So things like that, that's going to be easy enough to fix. We'll go around and do that. But generally, this is kind of the shape we have for these buildings. We do need to have the cobblestone stairs or the stairs underneath here, and we'll sort that out in just a second. But that's the basic shape of it. So I'm going to get those little bits and pieces fixed up. We're back in a second, and then we'll start doing all the texturing work. Alright, so we're back. We've done all our little bits and pieces, and I think it adds a lot more to it. Just this little slight height variation here. We've sorted out the bridge. We've also added in a few little details like this. We've lowered this down. I kind of really like the lower height of this. It gives it a much more kind of closed-in feeling, which I kind of like. The rest of it's done. We've done a little step up there, which works quite nicely. We've added more little fences here. So basically that's all kind of pretty much finished up. The shapes, pretty much exactly how we want it now. The next thing we've got to do is the texturing. I do this very similar to the way I kind of build, just in a kind of smaller scale. I will go through it in layers. So I'll do like a layer of andesite, then I'll do a layer of the smooth andesite with a little bit less of that in there, and then a final layer of the stone bricks. And there'll be even fewer of those in there. So I'll give you a quick example of the way I'll work through this. We have some stone bricks, andesite, and we don't have much in the way of polished andesite. Let's make a little bit more of that. We've got a little bit of each of those. We also add in some, generally add in, just to add even that little bit of extra depth, we add in a few cobblestone walls. And every now and then we add in some stairs as well. Let's make a few of those. We just add all these things that just add a little bit of variation to it. So we'll go through and we'll just start dotting around pieces of andesite like this. I don't think I'm going to be able to reach right up to the top. Can I? No, we're going to have to actually go inside to do that. But you should be able to get a general idea of the way I work. I will kind of step back every now and then, look at it, see if anything looks particularly out of place. If not, then we'll continue. We'll go on to say the bit of the polished andesite. Just a few bits of that dotted around. I do tend to do all of this before I add in the kind of windows or anything like that. Just because I feel I get a better kind of feel to it. See, that I don't like having bits like that lined up. It seems too kind of symmetrical to me. So if I ever end up doing things like that, I'll normally take them out, replace them with something else. I would like to put a couple of bits in at the top there. So let's actually fill her up like that. And that gives a nice little kind of spread of the polished andesite. Then if we'll move on to the couple of little bits of stone brick, which I keep placing in the wrong place apparently. I will quite often kind of remove bits that I've already put in just to add those, but then you just add that, adds that little bit of texture. And then when you're putting in like the slabs, not the slabs, the stairs rather, get the right block, Chach. When you're putting in the stairs, you need to bear in mind, look, at least have some idea of where you want windows to be, because obviously if you had a window here and then I put a similar window to these with the fence posts in there, having a stair there won't work, because I don't think it will connect to a stair. So we need to kind of think about that as we go through with these. But we can do something like that, and then maybe add in those at the bottom. Possibly add another one in there. This adds a few little kind of extra dents and divots into the wall. Add a bit of depth, and then again we can do the same with the walls. Do something like that. That adds just again an extra bit of depth and an extra bit of kind of value variations. That's a little bit darker than the rest of it. Maybe add a little bit in there, and that's where we'll do that going through for the entire wall. So I'll go ahead. I'll get that done. There's going to be a lot of little cuts in these clips, by the way, because a lot of this is very repetitive. It's very boring to do on camera. So getting it all done kind of between clips is a much better way of doing it, I feel. Anyway, guys, I'll be back in just a second once we have all of this textured. Alright, so the texture is complete. I did miss out a couple of steps when I was talking about it before. We have added a few extra little bits of acacia wood in there, just to add that little bit of kind of extra warmth to it, because it's got this really nice kind of warm grey colour to it, which is very, very nice. And we also added a little bit of texture variation into the stairs on the overhangs and the little walkways up to the second floors. So we've added a few stone bricks in there as well. I did also go ahead and add in a few little areas for windows and doors and where we're going to place those. That was basically just a case of going around, finding out what was a logical place to have an entryway, where it would look a little more interesting. Not necessarily always having them in the centre of these areas, sometimes a little bit off to the side, just to add that little bit of interest to it so everything's not completely symmetrical. I've apparently been leaving blocks lying around all over the place. So yeah, what we're going to do now, this is probably my favourite part of this, is going around adding those finishing touches, so adding like kind of the leaves and the tall grass and the ferns and those kind of things. Add that kind of final little bit of life to everything. We also need to grab ourselves some doors as well while we're here, so we can fit those in as we go around. But again, I'll just show you how I go through this process in just a small area, and then I'll go ahead, finish off the rest, and I'll come back to you once all that's done. What we need to do, though, we need to grab some leaves. We're going to need quite a bit of space on the hotbar for this, because I like to switch between things as I go around. So we're going to need some leaves. We're probably going to need quite a bit of black concrete, actually, just to fill in areas of the ground which are currently empty. The podzol I tend to use to place the ferns and the grass on. I will grab the ferns and the grass as well, and the bone meal. Do we need anything else? We could possibly do with some oak logs as well, because I like to use oak logs for little bushes, because it adds a little bit of colour variation to the acacia wood. Let's see if we actually have any of that in here. Should have, I think. Oh, not a great deal. Should be enough, though. That should be plenty. And apparently that's the first time I've picked up a piece of oak wood. Not quite. Okay. Let's take a look around and see what we can add in here. Let's go over to the other building. That's got a much nicer kind of area to be able to add things into around the outside of it, because we've got kind of all this area around here. This is the area that we need this black concrete for, though. We can fill this in. Obviously, we will go around and texture this as we have the rest of the concrete in the area. The rest kind of to simulate the kind of the corrupted grass. We will do that when we do kind of the final pass over this place. Let's stick those torches back down again as well. I do not want mobs spawning. Okay, so what we need to do is we just have a look around, see where things are going to make sense. So you can start adding a few little bits of leaves there. Possibly even have them going out into the pathway. I'm not sure about doing it there, though. That doesn't quite work. And then another thing I like to do, and has actually been kind of tricky in this whole building process, has been getting actual tall grass and things like that, just to add that little bit of extra life. And it's difficult because we can't bone meal the concrete, so it's difficult to add tall grass in there. So what I've been doing is I've been sinking the podzol down into the ground a little bit, and then just using ferns and tall grass and kind of two tall grass to make it look like there is bits of grass lying around. I think it works really well. Obviously, you do fall down into the holes every now and then, but I see it kind of works there in the pathway. But yeah, for the most part, that works really well, and it's kind of the best I could come up with for adding actual grass into these areas, or the kind of the simulation of grass, which actually we could do with a little bit more down there. Let me go and grab some acacia logs quickly. Okay, so what we do, we'll bring that down into there again. We'll put the podzol down here. This is the reason why my inventory gets in such a mess. Oh, not quite there. Because I use so many different block variations, and I try and vary things as much as I can, just to take away from the kind of the monotony of some of the block textures. My inventory just ends up becoming such a mess. Kind of frustrating to see. Yeah, we continue around here. We'll add in, say, a few things, a few little bushes here, sink some down into the ground as well. We do need to be able to actually pillar up a little bit here and have the black concrete underneath there as well. And then we go through things like that. We'll maybe add another bit of podzol down here. Like that. Just to add a little bit more. one of the challenges with this really has been that because of the color palettes, there's very little we can do to kind of brighten things up and to add color and texture variations. So we have to do what we can, and then these side bits under here are always a good place to add a few more. And then we also add a few onto the kind of the roofs here, and maybe have some coming down sides there. Actually have that kind of coming all the way down the side. Like that. What else can we add in here to keep this interesting? But the other good thing about having these little bushes on the tops of here as well is that it keeps it a little bit more interesting and helps to vary the silhouette of it a little bit. So it's not entirely flat. Can we get up on top of here? Yes, we can. And then we can start adding things on here. The difficulty here is that this is a bottom half slab. So that's a little bit more tricky. So we have to use them around the edges in the areas like this, and then we can sink them down into the ground where the walls and those kind of things are. And that helps to, again, to break up the silhouette. So maybe add a little bit more in there. And a little bit over the other side. And this we'll go around and we'll do this across the whole of the kind of the roofs of the buildings, around the outsides of the buildings and those kind of things. Let's see, we haven't actually seen if we can add any little bushes in here either. There's not too much space for them. Actually, there's very, very little space here. Yeah, normally what we'll do, I'll do a little example over here. We'll kind of just stick something down like that and then just surround it like that, just to add a little bush in there to keep things varied and interesting. Kind of like we've done here already, actually. I actually had an example right in front of me. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this finished up, and then we'll come back, we'll take a look around, and then we'll see what's left to do in this area before we go. Okay, I think we are pretty much done here. We've got all the greenery in, we've got plenty of little bits of grass, a lot of interest added to it. We do have a little bit of a hole here. Apparently a creeper felt that we needed to remodel a little bit on the upper floor, and it decided to take out pretty much half of it. So we've had to fix that up in the middle of all this. But I think it's looking good. I'm really liking the way this has turned out. We've added a little bit more interest to the silhouette of this area, which was one of the bits I was concerned about before. Just adding these little bits of the kind of leaves in there, that really helps to break it up a little bit. We've managed to solve our problem of the roof over here by basically just throwing a few leaves at it. It's always a good solution for these problems, but it works really well in this. We've also done a little bit of work on the path down here. This seemed like it was should be less of a built-up path, more of just a kind of a trodden path, as it's a less used route. So we've broken this up a little bit, added the path blocks in, added a bit more of the concrete, and I think it looks good. Obviously, we've gone through and we've added the doors and the fence posts for the windows in there. And yeah, I'm happy with how this is looking. We've got a lot more done today than I was anticipating, so I'm very, very pleased about that. There is still a lot of work to do, though. We have a long way to go to get this place finished. For now, though, I am pretty much completely out of time. So if you really enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like. If you have any comments, I'm more than happy to hear them. But until the next episode, I'm out. I'll see you guys later.